Hi everyone, Julia here, recording this December 20, or what is it, December 30th, 2022. This year's almost over. And I have the amazing Cheryl Bailey here again. And we're going to wrap up some of the other things we've been discussing, um, fear and how to overcome it. And what else did you say, Cheryl?
What is trauma?
So yeah, take the floor.
Well, hello, everyone. I hope that you're having a wonderful day today. And Julia keeps saying the amazing Cheryl. I really think it's Julia is the amazing person for reaching out and connecting all of us together so that we can pool our information together and so that we can get more accurate perspectives on what we're looking at in this medium that we find ourselves in. It's such a complex medium that we live in that it really does take a lot of different perspectives. And I really appreciate all of Julia's work because she's really, getting this honed in on exactly what we can do to make our lives into something that we really understand and want to be in. And so continuing with the idea of how one of the main things we need to do is get rid of some of the fear that we've got within our beings. The medium that we live in is neither good or bad. It's neutral. It's just reflecting how you are. It is information. It lets you know how you're doing. It reflects back to you your patterns of thought and how you feel, which includes your thought patterns, those habits of thought. It's kind of like ruts in a groove to where, it's just you get into these patterns and you just keep doing the pattern over and over again, which it can be good if it's a good pattern. But if it's not a good pattern, well, then you're in trouble with it again. So it's reflecting your patterns of thought and how you feel, which includes, all your fears. It's going to reflect all of that back to you. And, within those fears, it's going to cause you to have feelings of envy and jealousy towards others. And it's going to get that reflected back to you. And it's going to show you experiences where, you're going to get more and more envious of others around you if you've got those fears within you. And it'll put you in a situation where someone sitting across the table from you're telling you how great they're doing and how much abundance they have. And you're sitting there and you can't even figure out how to, get all the things done you need to do. And there they are just flying through it with flying colors. And then you get hit with that little sting of envy. And it's all because of fears. And that's why you're in the spot that you're in. And it also reflects back to you your loves, your joy. It's everything that you are. We don't see things the way they are. Rather, we perceive things the way we are. It's all just a reflection. It's us in the reflection. So we need to remove these fears. And why? Because it's making your life hard and negative. You can't give and receive love as well. And also it shuts off your power. It disempowers you. So that's why I tend to focus on getting rid of the fear in my life, because being a disempowered person, then I can't manifest the things that I need to for my life and for those loved ones around me. So as we talked about before, you get rid of these fears in the moment while it's happening. It doesn't really work that well. Now you can reflect on them and kind of become more clear about what your fears are, but to get rid of them, to actually do something to it, to move it out of where it's at, to decrease and diminish that fear, you've got to do it in the moment. So you're going through and then something happens in your experience. You feel this negative feeling. It can be panicky. Oh no. Okay, that's how you know there's a fear under there. And then you start looking and you try to identify that fear. And then once you get that fear identified, I call it grabbing the dragon by the tail. You just grab it by the tail. It won't kill you. It's going to feel uncomfortable, but that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so now what? So now what do? You've got this thing by the tail, you know what it is, and you're standing there staring at your fear. You're standing there staring at the thing that's making your life miserable is what you're really doing. And now you have the power to get rid of it. And so what you're going to do is you're going to come in with some logic statements. Your logic, you can use your logic to dispel the misinformation that you've got around that fear. Say you find a fear of abandonment, right? You know, something happened, one of your parents had to leave, and you know, maybe just they had to go away for, you know, a few months or whatever, and you felt abandoned, and now you've got this fear of abandonment. And so what you would do, okay, I'm feeling abandonment, and really it's just maybe your husband or a friend of yours just wants to go somewhere and go do something else, and it has nothing to do with you. They're not abandoning you. But see, if you have a fear of abandonment, you're going to see something that small as, oh no, they're abandoning me. And it's going to feel like that. It's going to feel like it did when you were abandoned as a child. And that's what it is. It's that fear. So what you do is you come in and you get you a book and you write down your logic statements. So what you do is you come in and you lay in, wait a minute. And, you know, I like to use the bracelet on this piece is you want to stop. You're not in danger. You're not being killed. Nothing's happening. Relax, take some deep breaths. Let's think about this. And then you come in with some logic statements. I'm an adult now. I can take care of me. That person is not abandoning me. They're just going out to lunch with a friend. They're not doing anything. They're not, wait a minute. You know, if someone moves out of my life, well, that's okay. I'm not a child anymore. And I will not die without a caregiver. I am fine now. See, this fear got laid in there because we have an instinctual need to have a caregiver as a child. When we're a child without that caregiver, you know, back in our early days when we more lived out in nature and these little tribe things that we lived in, well, if your caregiver either got killed or hurt or left you, then you were in deep trouble because your caregiver was your lifeline and you were going to die. So what happens is without your caregiver, that lays in there a fear of death. I'm going to die without this caregiver. And that's why we all tend to have fears that kind of constellate around fears of abandonment and not being good enough, because we've got this innate need for a caregiver as a child. But a lot of this is happening as an adult, and you're standing there as an adult. Well, you don't need a caregiver anymore. You're all grown now. You take care of you. You don't need someone to go find your, you know, your food for you. You don't need someone to make sure that, you know, bad things aren't happening to you, because you can do that for yourself now, because you are now the adult. So really the logic behind these feelings of abandonment are kind of silly, because you don't even need a caregiver anymore. You don't need them. So, and you know, again, the fear is related to children, and it's an instinct to a secure connection with a caregiver, or you died in the past. And that's why these fears tend to be so big and all of those things, because we have these instincts that we're born with. We're born with this. And if it doesn't all play out just perfectly, we can get these fears around this stuff. And so what happens is, you know, you go on life and you see the whole world through the eyes of that abandonment. And then you start, you know, you believe that you're going to be abandonment, and then the system just hooks you up and you start getting abandoned all over the place, because, you know, you're projecting that out into the simulation. And so, let's see.
That's
All right.
really interesting because, you know, you said how you would write down, you know, what's really going on instead of, you know, the fear of abandonment. And that's really very similar to language lessons of the heart, because when you find the judgment that I'm always being abandoned, well, you do this, you do this little, you say this little scripted thing about I'll release this judgment well, first I acknowledge it, I lovingly accept that I had it, I release it, and then you replace it and you write down 6 things to replace it. So it's very similar. So you could start with what your method of, oh wow, I found this fear, using your bracelets and then grabbing your notepad and jotting some things down. And then you can go over to language lessons of the heart and do the judgment and denial release, which is, a little more of a formal ritual to make sure, the system knows exactly what you want, because that's all any ritual is. It's just templates in the ether in the system. So anytime somebody does the same thing, oh, well, that's what they want. They want me to respond this way. And so that happens. So yeah, that would just be a way to reinforce it and make it go along even quicker.
Exactly, Julia. And your language lessons of the heart, it's directly tied with the method. I found mine a little bit more organically, because I was just like, okay, your fear's the problem. Okay, how do I get rid of it? And so I just had to figure it out as I went. I didn't have any template to go by. But other people have gone through this process too. So, I think that your language lessons of the heart is a great way to go in there and really concretize these things once
Right.
you
And
figure out.
you've also created a template now too, though. You've created your own template with your bracelets and the whole method of writing it down. So now it's just basically you have extra reinforcement to get it done if you do it with both methods.
Exactly. And what the bracelets do is, a lot of times when we feel this intense fear, when it comes up in our experience, there, especially for intuitives and who are people who are quite sensitive to feeling and emotion, sometimes it can just throw you right over into panic. And you can just disconnect from your reality and go somewhere else, because it's not pleasant where you're at. And people who are intuitive are very good at doing that. They're great with imagination. They just check out. They're not even there anymore. And so that's why the bracelets, I found to be really helpful to keep me. Excuse me, the little dogs wanted to play. And so what I was saying is the bracelets just tend to keep you grounded so that you don't disassociate and leave the building while you're right in the hot seat. You're on the front row seat. You're right there. You're in a position to where you can do the most damage to that fear and get it out of there. And you've got to be completely present to be able to focus on this while you're working on it, because the more focused you are on this while it's happening, that means that you're going to have way more power. When you're not focused and you're just, kind of haphazardly there, instead of having like a big giant floodlight beam shining on it, well, you've got your little pin flashlight, and you can kind of make out the edges of it, and but when you're really focused and you're really present, then you've got a floodlight on it. And I tell you, those little dark monsters in there, they start squealing and running when you get that floodlight on them. And it really, really works a lot faster. And, you want to get that floodlight clear and focused in on these fears. Even though it's uncomfortable, it is the way out. And I think that it's just so important. And both of these techniques, the what I found in doing the fear work and what Julie has discovered through her process, it just gives more templates, which is going to make it a bigger flashlight to focus on this and make it easier to get rid of these fears. My first teacher, one of my teachers has been Tom Campbell, and he just, he'll talk to you about it. And then he says, well, your problem is these fears over here. But he doesn't, say exactly, okay, well, exactly how do you get rid of them, because what I found is, okay, I'm aware of them, but they keep happening. And so he can't go into exactly how to do it because it's just different for each person. And he doesn't have the time. He's focused on mostly just teaching people what's causing your problem and teaching them that they're consciousness, that they're not these physical bodies. And so his specialty isn't, this area that Julie and I are working in. And that's why I thought it was so good to be able to help others who are on this road, because this is just where it's all at, isn't it, Julia?
No doubt. Yeah. And that was the same thing that I had with Tom's stuff. I've been following him for years now, probably almost 10 years. And it was like, yeah, lose the fear, but how? And so, yeah, it's so cool that you discovered your method that's so clever and so just natural and organic. And of course, your method by itself works fine because that you got to where you are today, and the language lessons of the heart works fine too. But man, you put those two together, you're a powerhouse. But you can just go with whatever one resonates more with your personality. Personally, if I would have had your choice, I would have chosen that because I'm less of the regimented kind of person. I just like to do things in the moment, spontaneous. But whatever it is, and this is serious business, healing emotionally, doing the shadow work and losing your fear and all these negative judgments about you and clearing out your resonance so you can manifest the life you really want. So if it were me, I would do both of them.
Yes, because you're going to correct your resonance even quicker. Because then, the faster you correct your resonance, all of this negativity that's happening all around you is just going to drop away. And you're just going to be really shocked at how fast that happens when you start focusing in the right area and you really get in there and get this shadow work done. And, it's really unbelievable. I couldn't believe it because within, 3-4 years of doing this work, I just saw my reality molding and shifting. And I would look up and something would happen that could never happen before because I had fears around it. And then something would happen. I would just look at it in amazement. I'm almost 50 years old and never had any experiences like that happening in my life. I would just look at it and go, my goodness, because it's so fast, it will take your breath away. I mean, literally, it was just, wow, what is going on here? And then that just reinforces, okay, I'm going in the right direction now. These dark uglies within me is why I'm having all of these crappy experiences in my life. I'm doing it. And then you get to the place where it's like, wait a minute, I'm going to have some compassion for myself, because a lot of these fears that I have are coming out of places of trauma and from abuse that I had, endured when I was a young child. And this is why I wanted to go into the, what is trauma piece of it, because this hooks on to all the rest of it. Now, see, trauma, it causes a specific fear in children. What it causes is I'm not good enough. I'm defective and not lovable, or they wouldn't be treating me like this. It gives you a fear about yourself. And the trauma happens. It's not really about the specific event. The trauma happens when events cause us to dislike ourselves and feel negative about ourselves. And this is why it feels so bad. What we think and feel about ourselves get manifested here too. If we hate ourselves, it creates many negative events that we have to endure because, we leave our childhood home, then we start just manifesting in our reality. It's just the same old, different faces, different places. And the simulacrum will agree with you and create that for you, and it's not about the ego, where you're going, oh, well, look how great I am. And you don't even have to love yourself. It just, you just don't want to hate yourself and have this self, attack or self-loathing. You can feel neutral about yourself and you're not going to be manifesting negative things like this, and you can love yourself, but first you got to get to the point where you don't hate yourself anymore. It's kind of like the first step. And then you can move on and on to more self-love and self-care. You just don't want to hate yourself, and you can tell yourself, hey, I'm a student here and I'm trying to learn. And so I'm going to go easy on myself. I'm going to go real easy right here because I am not, intentionally doing this to myself and those people around me. I'm here to learn. And so you just kind of ease up on yourself and, because when you, let's see, wait. Trauma is caused by a deep feeling of I'm not very worthy person. So it's not the actual event. So the trauma, I want to separate these two, trauma and abuse. That's two different things. The abuse is the event that happened, and the trauma is what you take away from that. It's how you perceive it. It's not the actual event. And most times, we're not even there during the actual event. And that's why there are only fragments of memory there. So say, for instance, so say for instance, your dad hit you. And so then now you don't like yourself. Well, then you go through life. Now it gets harder and harder to get along in life, because what you come away with that from the abuse, the trauma is you put yourself into a victim role. Oh, well, all the men just want to beat me up. I'm a victim of his abuse, and look what he did to me. Now I have to hate all men, not just him, but all of them. So, you've got that part of it. And then the other piece of it, which is vital, is your capacity to love reduces and becomes very small. And that victim mentality, it's a trap, and it disempowers you. It takes away your power to change anything that's going on in your life. So if you have a lot of trauma or negative feelings and fears about yourself, it's hard to say, what can I do for you? Love is about others. You can't say, if you're carrying a lot of trauma, which is how you see yourself, then you're not going to go when you see someone else in trouble. You can't say, well, is there something I can do to help? Because you're focused on yourself and your trauma. That's where you're at. You're not even out there to where you're really engaging with other people in a loving way, and because you feel so devastated inside, it turns into being more self-centered, which ends up in depression and negative spaces, and then that depression can roll over into, suicide things. And, and if you think about it, that's the ultimate self-hatred, the annihilation of the self. And then that's what you manifest. If your capacity to love is really small, it hurts relationships, it hurts family, and you're not meaning to. It is what it does. And so it starts to take a toll on the rest of your life that just convinces you that you're really a bad person. And look at all the crap that's coming my way. Your kids don't like you. Your partner, wants to leave you. Then you get angry at them because of it, but that anger is just a cover, it's a cover over for that feeling of inadequacy. That's all that is, because really when your children are mad at you, your spouse doesn't, you can't get along with your spouse, you're not really getting along with anybody. Well, we deep down in ourselves, we know it can't be that we have to have a part in that. We are that powerful in ourselves, but that deep down we know, and if you're negative towards yourself, feeling unworthy and inadequate, well, you're not feeling good enough. And that's the trauma. That's trauma. Because when we feel negative towards ourselves, that is way worse than any abuse that we ever suffered. When you're walking around every day with feelings that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy, and you have no power in a disempowered state, it is just the worst. It's not a simple thing to get rid of that, but it's much easier to understand if you know what it is. Once you know what it is, then you can start to work with it and you can understand it better. So what do you think about that, Julia, so far? I got a little bit left, but what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's such good points. And yeah, the thing about, you just have to accept yourself, and know that you're doing the best you can. And that in the past, you did the best you could at the level of consciousness that you're at. And the thing is, when you know better, you can do better. So now, if you're listening to this, there are no excuses. You know what's going on. You know what's going on. So just make those steps and have that honest self-awareness and just go through it. It's not even that difficult, and have that emotional release. That's one of the four processes of language lessons of the heart, is emotional release. And this is going to bring on a lot of that, and that's a good thing, because those suppressed emotions are what happens when you get triggered by someone, and then all of a sudden you explode in anger at one person for everything that's been bothering you for who knows how long, and situations like that. So, and people don't realize how much carrying around all this, what Michael from, he's the founder of Language Lessons of Heart, Michael Harrell, he calls the intentionality bus that we ride around in, which is our subconscious thoughts leading the way. These thoughts that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I never get what I want, this kind of thing. That actually affects your life, to in your relationships, in your jobs, in your abundance or lack thereof. And it's hard to put your mind around that, definitely if you're what is it, left brain person. But it really does work that way. And when you clear that up, your whole life just changes. Like Cheryl was saying, it's just miraculous how, you change your frequency, you change that resonance, and everything adjusts to it. And it's just amazing. It's miraculous. And, we've discovered this now. We have this power, and we're able to share it worldwide. So yeah, now's the time for all of us to get there and own our power.
Yes, now is the time. Good, because now we have all these different perspectives coming in, and we're isolating what the actual problem is, and it's within us. It's not out there in the simulation or reality. It's not out there. It's in here. And once we take a radical responsibility for our lives, then we can step into our power, and then we can change these things. And so stepping into that power is also understanding what trauma is, and what the abuse and trauma and how different those are. Because the trauma it's the very strong dislike of what you have done in your life, because of all those feelings that came out of that fear of being unlovable and inadequate. And this is where a lot of this stuff's coming out of. And so for instance, let's say you have trauma because maybe your mother slaps you all the time, or your father hollers at you, right? Well, when you're young, you start thinking, I must be unworthy. My parents don't like me. My mother slaps me all the time. I must not be very valuable. These are the messages that's going to get encoded into your consciousness. Otherwise, why would she have to slap me all the time? And children don't say or think to themselves, oh, well, mother is having a problem. Mother's got a lot of trauma and hates herself, or she's, that you don't think, well, she's having the problem and she's just taking her problem out on me. Children do not think that way. We don't see it this way when we're young, because when we're kids, we're self-centered and everything is about you. Children are naturally self-centered. This is the way how consciousness, grows and evolves. First it's all about you, and then it starts focusing out and it becomes about others as you mature. So what we call maturity is becoming less self-centered. And when you mature, you become less self-centered, and it's more about other people. So when you're small, it's more about you. You're at the center of the universe. Then if someone treats you badly, well, it must be about you. And, you don't have a big enough perspective to see it's about somebody else, unless you're just a highly evolved soul and you already know this. But most of us aren't. We're all growing to get there. So at this point, it's really about you. So in another example, mom comes home from work, and she gives a teddy bear to your little brother, and then she goes over and she gives another one to your little sister. And then she asks you, oh, hi, honey, are you having a nice day? And doesn't hand you one. Well, she's thinking that you've outgrown the need for a teddy bear, because you're 7, and they're just 2 and 3. And she asks you if you're having a nice day, so then instead of, understanding what mom meant there, the 7-year-old could feel crushed. It's like, oh, I didn't get a teddy bear. She must not like me as much as she likes them. Something as trivial as that, as a, 6, 7-year-old child, can affect you the rest of your life if that stays in there in your consciousness. The rest of your life, even as a 50, 60-year-old, you could feel inadequate because you didn't get a teddy bear when your other brother and sisters did. Because that's when, they were 6, they didn't get a teddy bear. This thing is tricky, and that it can come from your childhood over just small little events like that. So, but when you look at it intellectually and think that's silly, you laugh about that. But that feeling of an inadequacy at 6 continues on as the trauma, right? Because once you have that belief that you're inadequate, you start interpreting your reality that way. And it starts showing that right back to you. And then it becomes a negative feedback loop. Then when you get told something like, oh, okay, it's time to go to bed. You're a little kid, you need to go to bed early so you can get up and go to school and all that good stuff. Well, then the child starts interpreting things like that as, they just don't want me around. See how you can start interpreting things in the wrong way when that's not even what they meant at all. So then you start interpreting your whole world like that. Like when someone gets upset with you, instead of thinking, oh, well, okay. Oh, wait, they're having a bad day. What you end up doing is you interpret that as, oh, I must have done something wrong. Uh-oh, I shouldn't have said that. I should have done this another way. Then you start beating yourself up, and there you are. Then you're hurting yourself again, and it does not feel good. It feels terrible. You just interpret everything in terms of you. Well, that's, and that is being self-centered, because you haven't gotten rid of these fears. You see, it's all about you still. Everything that happens is somehow about you. If it's a happy thing, that happens, well, that's about you too. And, that's good. And you get to feel good about it. But if a negative thing happens, you feel really bad about yourself, because that's about you too. So that is trauma. It's fear turned into self-loathing, turned into dysfunction. And that, to me, is the definition of trauma. It's actually fear turned into self-loathing. Then that turns into dysfunction in your life. And that's trauma. And you can be, you can be traumatized by almost anything. Some people, you can turn on the internet and get traumatized by that, all trauma. And once you start seeing this in a bit within a bigger picture, in a bigger way, and you start seeing that, everything's not about you, it's about others, because we're not here by ourselves. We're a collective consciousness, and we're all here and we're all connected together. Then you see other people's behavior as not having something to do with you and what you did wrong. Then you can interpret it in the correct way of, oh goodness, they could be having a bad day. Oh, what can I do to help them? Is there anything I can do to help here? Maybe I can, just step away from them a little bit and let them breathe and get their, collect themselves. And then maybe I can go back and ask them if there's anything I can do. But see, when it's still inward focused, well, you're like, well, screw you. Who do you think you are? I didn't do anything to you. You're just being a jerk. See, you've got it twisted around backwards. The dark uglies are in the person that's being negative. The dark uglies aren't in you when they're being negative. Even if they might be saying something about you, it doesn't matter, because what other people do has nothing to do with you. It's that thing. So if someone doesn't like what you're doing, they always have the option to walk off. They don't have to stand there in judgment of you, but they're standing there in judgment of you because they're judging themselves. Right, Julia?
Totally. And that is such a great definition of trauma. And so important to note that the actual event that happens doesn't have to be very abusive at all. It can be something minor, like, the examples you just gave, but the trauma is just as real and has the same effects and needs to be cleared out. You have to make unconscious conscious. What went in automatically, you have to take out manually. And so that's the Holy Spirit. And, you know, once you do that, you're free again, you know, like when you were a baby before anything ever happened, you're just back to that again. And just that wonderful optimal resonance.
Yes. Yes, and with this definition of trauma, see, this definition of trauma can help people let go of it much easier, because it's hard to let go of, when you're not separating this out and looking at it for what it is, and how easy, you can get traumatized as children just because your perspective isn't big enough yet to understand what's actually happening. You can be traumatized by almost anything. And all traumas are not created equal. Some are more serious and deeper and more powerful than others. And this too, an event that traumatizes one person will not automatically traumatize another. The person gets traumatized by, the acceptance of that negativity, right? And so, some people that's grown a little bit farther along, well, they're going to reject that negativity and they're not going to have any trauma because they're going to know, oh, well, oh, that person wants to beat me up. Well, you know what? That's not my problem. That's their problem, not mine. That's not about me. See, so they reject that negativity and they don't take that on. They don't internalize it and make it personal about them, about their self and their inner world. And that's why some military get PTSD and others don't. Because, if everybody viewed, these trauma that they endure in the military in the same way, then all of them should get PTSD, correct? But they don't. It's a subset. It's a small subset of probably, I think it's 25 to 30% that come home and they are not able to integrate well because they, some of the things they may have did in the military, other people saw it as that, necessary. This is just the way things are. And some of the more empathic people and the sensitive people went, oh my God, how could I have done that? I'm a horrible person. Well, that's the person that's going to get PTSD. You got to put it in context at some point. The people who may have traumatized you were the problem, not you. So don't accept that negativity as your own. It's not yours. So you let go of that negativity, then the trauma goes away. See, once you let go of it, the trauma of it just leaves. Then you don't have a trauma anymore. You don't have to walk around and go, well, I'm just a traumatized person. I had all this stuff happen to me. And now I'm just living this way because that's just the way it is. Well, good news here, guys. We can let go of that trauma and you don't have to drag it around like a ball and chain around you everywhere the rest of your life. We can actually let go of that trauma and release that and put it back where it goes. And, any kind of abuse can be traumatizing, and some people accept that negativity, but some don't. You can see this different. If you don't internalize it, then you don't have to, walk around with all of this negativity that you're putting out into the universe that's on a feedback loop that's coming right back to you and kicking you, And that's why, this is why, you see some people out in the world that have been through horrible things. I mean, just, well, one person that comes to mind is, his name was Frankel Mendel. His last name, I think, was Mendel, M-E-N-D. Anyway, he was in a Nazi concentration camp. They killed his parents, they killed his family, and there he is. He's in the concentration camp, but he didn't internalize all that. He accepted it. This is the way things are right now. This is what's happening. I'm sure he was sad about it, but he didn't make it about him. Oh, well, I must be really unworthy. Then why is all this happening to me? He just saw it as, well, mankind has a lot of growing up to do. And then he started looking around to see how I could help everybody else in there. And this man came out of the Nazi concentration camp with a new, concept of how to help mankind heal, which was, man's search for meaning. It was a book that he wrote. Now, this guy should have come out of there just angry at the world, but he wasn't, and he didn't. So it just goes to show you how, trauma just affects different people, and these horrible things, and you wonder how these people survive. That's how they survived it. They didn't accept the trauma or feel bad about themselves at all. So, okay. So you can deal what you've got to deal with in life, and you cannot take it personally. You can think, wait, it's not about me, it's about them. So you can also think, okay, I'm going to learn and I'm going to grow from this experience. I'm going to learn how to be resilient. I'm going to learn to defend myself, because sometimes we turn into like a shrinking violet, because we don't want to get out there and just really put our all out into the world because we're afraid somebody might come back and do something to us. And, that's where you get people who are very, afraid of any kind of confrontation. Well, out in this world, we're going to have confrontation because there's people at all different levels of consciousness. You've got people out here that have dark uglies, and if you're walking around shining a bright, pretty light, well, they want to come up and kick you in the shin. And if you take that on, then you just traumatize yourself. You're letting that traumatize you. Or you can look at it like, oh, I feel sorry for them. It must be really sad to not ever get to feel good. It's a sad thing, really, And then the other thing that you can do when you do this work, because I learned to never hand my power over to others, to never disempower myself over other people's negativity. And, this changed my life. I don't blame myself anymore when other people are jerks, for whatever reason. I do not accept it because it's not mine. I call it the dark uglies. And if they've got it, well, they've got it. And, the verbal abuse, well, that's just the way they are. And I walk off, and then I give them time to get over it or do whatever it is they need to do. And, and I can tie that directly into an experience I had yesterday where I walked into the post office and it was a 3-ring circus. It was the craziest scene. So my ears and eyes, you kind of train yourself when you kind of feel something's going on. It's like, hey, pay attention, heads up, look what's going on. So I had that feeling. It's like, okay, all right, I'm watching what's going on. Well, I'm a right brain. I don't do anything in a systematic way. I don't have any kind of organization skills to speak of. I have a few. I keep lists and notes, but I'm not a ultra organized person. I pretty much fly by the seat of my pants most of the time. So I walk into the post office. I've got a box full of stuff and I've got to mail this box. Well, it's full of presents for my friend that I want to give for her birthday, but it's not packaged right and it's not ready to go. And I'm trying to figure out how to get this done in this post office. And there was this woman standing behind the counter, and every time she'd see me over there scratching my head, she would look over at me and she goes, "Is there anything I can do to help?" See, she thinks about others. She wasn't thinking about herself and when she gets off of work. And I wish these people would just not be so needy. She was thinking about me. What can I do to help you? And so I would look at her. I was like, well, I'm not sure if you can help me or not. And then I'd laugh because it is funny. And so then I got everything together and I went up to another counter and there was a man standing there. And as soon as I looked up and looked into his eyes, I went, whoa, dark uglies. And I could feel his vibe. And because I'm an empath, I can see you. I can see you. And if you have the dark uglies, I will reveal that in our interaction because it's an informed field. And so they can read my informed field, then they know that I know. And so I'm standing there and I'm sending compassion. It's like, it must be hard to feel that way. And then he looked at me and he said, okay, well, what's the address you want to send this to? And he was just very sharp. And I said, oh, well, I'm not sure here. Let me see if, oh, here it is. I've got the address right here. So I give him the address. Well, it comes up and he goes, and then he says, that's the wrong zip code. And he said it just like that. And so then I said, oh, well, I must have written it down wrong. Oopsie, I'm sorry. And then I blamed it on, I took responsibility. Oh, yeah, that happens in my world. I'm not exactly perfect and correct on every detail that I am looking at. And so I pulled my phone out and I said, so should I look up the zip code? Because I know that he can just put in the thing and it's the post office. He can look at a little thing and tell exactly what the zip code is of that place. So I'm standing there, well, how can I help you? Can I look up the zip code? I mean, and I'm basically questioning, what do you want me to do? Because I didn't look at him and say, wow, you're negative man. I don't want you to help me and walk off. I just stayed there, and I'm focused on what I'm doing. I'm watching him, because when I find somebody like that, I'm in this mode, watch them, so that I can react to it in a good way and not go into that disempowerment and oh, well, I did it wrong. I put the wrong zip code now. Now I'm making his day hard. No, he's there to help people. That's what he's there to do. It's his job. So then he looks up and he goes, oh, well, it's this zip code. And then I just kept being nice. I said, oh, those darn zip codes, I just can, it's just so weird how they are. They're all different everywhere. And I was just, making light of it. So he kind of checked me out, and then he looks up at me and he says, but I'm sorry, I can't give you a piece of tape, because I needed a little piece of tape to put over like one little flap. It wasn't like I needed a whole roll. I needed like a 2-inch piece. And he said, I'm sorry, I can't give you a piece of tape. And then I looked at him and I said, oh, well, okay. And then I said, all right, well, let me pay for this. So then I paid for some of the things I bought. And then I went over, I said, thank you, sir, for your help. And I just backed away from it. See, this is how you want to, interact and deal with people that have this stuff, is you just want to be kind and then get out of there as soon as you can. It's not that you're running from them, but you're not, you can help them a little bit, but they are where they are, and there's really nothing you can do. They are where they are. And they're going to get those experiences back until they get tired of it, right? And then they'll learn on their own. All you can do is plant a seed. And then I just looked at him and said, yeah, some days are just better than others. And then I said, you have a nice day, sir. And I walk away. And then I went to the other counter, and I walked up there and I set my box up there and I said, I really appreciate all your help, and I'm going to probably need a lot more help before I get out of here. And then she just started laughing, and we started giggling about it. And then another man came in behind me, and he overheard what was going on. And well, he was a right brain intuitive too. And so then he got involved in it. And between the three of us, we lit that whole post office up. People started coming in, they could feel these good vibes, and it turned into a 3-ring circus. I was literally there in this post office for 45 minutes because it turned into a lot of fun. And then this one lady came in and she had lost a package. Well, then we started playing with that. We started playing with the packages lost. And it's like, you know what? Wonder what could have happened to it. And then we all three got really imaginative. We turned the negative into a positive. And by the time the lady left, it's like, oh, well, it's probably Christmas and the package will get there in time, or at some time. So see, that's just an example of how we encounter all different people at all different walks in life. You're not always, I didn't encounter the negative post office man because I was, it was resonating negative back to me. See, he isn't, in that negative resonance. And so for me, as soon as I encountered it, I could have either followed him there, and I could have told him he's a very negative person and I don't appreciate him. And then I could go and tell his boss and get him in trouble. And, it could have gone down a very negative road, or I could have just back out of it slowly, let him own that, move away, and then go over to where I know someone is in a more resonance with where I'm at. And that's how you finally, once you empower yourself, you don't have to continue to interact and engage with someone like that. You don't have to do that to yourself. It's negative. It doesn't feel good. And that is how you, once you get just a little bit thicker skin and you don't have these negative feelings about yourself, then you're able to do these, these events in a much more positive way without clicking into it and resonating with them and going down a negative road with them. Because then when you do that, you're just becoming part of the problem. And I guess, that's my soapbox mantra for today, is just because someone else is being negative, it doesn't mean you have to follow them there. And you can still be kind and compassionate toward them. And, and you can also plant seeds. And it's like, oh, darn, I just make mistakes some days, and then that plants a seed within them. Oh, you get to make mistakes too, because we're here in class, we're learning, this is not something where we were going to be, in eternal damnation because, you messed up on one number of zip code, right? So it's just, some musings that I just wanted to impart to everyone today. And Julie, I just want to thank you for having me on. I really appreciate everything you've done to help, get this message out. I just think it's vital. I think it's so important. And I really love doing this work. It feels good to give back some of the wonderful things that was given to me in my life and my growth and my evolution. And so I just want to tell you, I really love you, Julia.
Ditto, all the accolades you sent my way right back at you, because you just made some amazing discoveries here and have some great perspectives. And I love the party in the post office. It's great. You go in and it's something about the post office vibe. You remember the whole going postal thing where the guy went and shot everybody, and then the whole phrase came up, going postal, I'm gonna go postal. And you walk into most post offices and you feel that vibe, but often there's that one shiny person in there that's just beaming their light. And that's how we can all be, those beacons of light out there. And Jason even talks about that. He says if you're resonating at that frequency, Jason from Archaics, you become that beacon of light, and you're more likely to draw people your way than one other negative person. Again, it's a ratio thing. And this is truly the way to break free. Jason's another one that tells everyone, well, break free or die trying, be fearless. But how? Like you said before, you can't just decide I'm going to be fearless and you're fearless.
Yeah.
So
Okay, I'm fearless now. It does not
right,
work
and
that way.
hopefully people here don't fear death, because that's a lie. That's the biggest lie of all, because as Soul was saying, everybody gets out alive. So once you lose that fear, and those basic fears, but you're talking more about getting into those fears that are your judgments and your core. And man, a lot of people might not even know they have them, because they think, well, I had such a good upbringing, my parents were good, my siblings were good. But you might have had some little incident happen that might not have even been very abusive to most people observing it, but you received it as making you feel unworthy. And you have it as trauma in your system. And so yeah, it can, even people that seemingly had perfect lives might have little what do you call them, dark uglies to deal with.
Yes. And then you don't realize you have it. And then you're just dragging around this ball and chain around with you everywhere and don't even realize that it's even on there.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are in that state, they don't even realize there's anything they can do or anything they should do. And I
Right.
never really knew there was something you could do. And once I found out there's something you can do to remedy all this, besides going and paying some shrink or whatever, like, people used to do, whatever. I
Yeah,
was
let's go
like,
talk
oh,
about it. That's going to help.
right. Just pay me some money and we'll talk about it. And I'll give you some pharmaceuticals, and,
Yeah.
that'll be good. I'll get richer and have nice vacations, and you'll still be, you'll be worse off, because now you'll have all these chemicals in your system too. And yeah, and you'll be
Yeah.
thinking, well, why aren't I any better? I've been getting all this help, so I must really be a loser. But this is so much better. And it's you taking control of this. You become the warrior. You solve your problems. And that's so empowering right there, because no one else can solve your problems for you. Everybody has to do this for themselves. And now's the time when people are starting to make New Year's resolutions. So make this the year you actually keep your New Year's resolution, and get to the other side of the dark ugly.
Yeah. Don't worry about that New Year's resolution. Oh, I'm going to lose weight. And I'm going to get in shape and I'm going to do this. All you have to do is just get rid of your fear, get rid of your feelings of inadequacy and self-loathing. And guess what? All of that weight just falls off. You don't even have to worry about any weight because you feel good. When you feel good about yourself, you're going to be more inclined to not need to reach out for something to comfort yourself on the inside. You won't need any of that. Then you just start having fun in this wonderful playground we're in, because this place can be a circus. And I tell you this from experience. I walk around in a circus most of the time, and it's ridiculous, but it's fun. Because the system, you know, all on its own has a sense of humor. There is a sense of, you know, ironic, you know, tragic comedy here. And so you can end up in a place that's just kind of ridiculous. It's funny, you know, and it becomes, your life becomes fun. It'll become fuller. It'll become better. You don't have to focus on, you know, those little, well, okay, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to eat this today. And if you focus on this, you know, inner work, because it's an inside job here. This is what we're here to do. We're here to evolve and grow. And this is how it's done. This is how you do it. It's an inside job. And once you do this inside work, then you'll just watch your life morph into something that's totally understandable and something that you're going to enjoy. Life becomes wonderful. It really does, because you're no longer looking out into the world to prove to yourself that you're adequate. You start looking out into the world and you start seeing the wonderful things here too, because it has both. Both are here. You just have to, you know, be tuned into that resonance so you can see it. And then once you can see it, then you can never unsee it. And then you can feel the love all around you. You can push that love out on, you know, to other people, because love is about others. You can push that love out there into the universe and just bathe the people you care about around you in it, and watch that love just come around full circle. Ooh, I just got goosebumps. And then when it comes back full circle and someone walks up to you and you look in their eyes, you can see and feel that love is a bright, shining thing aiming right at you, because you are loved. We all are loved. We've just got to get to it within ourselves and get them fears out of there, because that's what's blocking all of it. It's blocking everything you want. Isn't it, Julia?
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, you can have a wonder-filled life. You're just observing miracles happen around you all the time. And yeah, and that kind of brings us to this new amazing idea that Cheryl's come up with, that she has labeled errant collective consciousness, and a way to you know, when one or more come together with intentions, it magnifies the, you know, the attention. Again, it's a make a stronger impression into the ether, into the simulacrum, whatever you want to call it, into the source, and makes it more likely to manifest. So tell us more about that, Cheryl.
Yes, the errant collective consciousness. And, you know, as you look around and you find the people who are in this errance, and you're going to notice these people are highly intuitive. And I noticed that Jason did a podcast the other day where he was talking about the oracles of Delphi. And, you know, in the stories that came down to us, these women, they were sitting over a crack in the ground, smelling fumes and getting high. That's what they were doing. And it's like, no, that's not what they were doing. They were highly evolved empaths. They could read the simulation. They could read your informed field. They were very, very powerful psychics. Their minds were very powerful. They'd gotten rid of their fear. They had gotten a very shiny, you know, flashlight. And then they would group up together, because there was several of them. It wasn't just one at Delphi. They were all over Greece. And they would group up together, and they were a network. And so what I postulated is we can do that today. You know, as the errants, you know, we're getting rid of this fear. We're highly intuitive. And as we grow and become stronger, we too can connect up and then strengthen the resonance of our thoughts. And if we synchronize our thoughts into the same vein, then we all focus on the same thing at the same time, then we can make that signal stronger, and which is going to make it more probable that it's going to, whatever it is, happens. And so it doesn't mean about controlling everything. You just want to nudge probabilities in your favor. There's nothing wrong with that. So I thought of, well, it could be an errant collective consciousness, or short, you know, ECC. I was like, ECC won't let me be. I'm sorry, I'm being silly. I'm in a good mood today. So the ECC in the collective consciousness, and I was thinking about maybe we could set up a Zoom meeting, and we can do it at specific times, and Julia could announce it on her channel, and then you just pop in there everybody would get an email, and then before we pop in, each person, will come with them something that they want to amplify. See it as an amplification device, which is what it actually is. We're amplifying consciousness. So you bring in your intention and what you want, and then you tell it to the group. And then right then, all the group focuses on that right then. And it doesn't take long. We only have to, we don't have to meditate for an hour on it. You just focus on it and you say, I want this person to have the energy and more dynamic to push this out forward. And you just say it 4 or 5 times in your head. Then it'll go to the next person. Okay, what are you trying to do? Then, then everybody gets a turn. So it's almost just like we're just using it as a tool. So maybe you could announce that on the next, podcast or whatever. So it would just be you coming in there, and you would, it'd be like a Zoom meeting, and we're just recreating what, there's nothing new under the sun. So we're just creating what, kind of they were doing back in the past. And there is all kinds of stories that were written about these women that could do this, that were very, powerful mediums and psychics. And I mean, the kings were coming and talking to them because they knew who was going to win the war. They knew the outcomes of the war. They knew, how it was going to happen. They knew. And so,
Trump will come to us to get all these election issues solved.
Excuse me?
I said Trump will probably come to us to get his election issues solved, election fraud issues.
Yeah, he's got a lot of issues going on. Yeah.
You know how there's supposed to be all this election fraud going on. So your sayings and stuff went to the oracle. So I can see that happening with us down the road.
Oh, that's funny. Well, even if I could see the outcome of that stuff, I probably wouldn't even tell them, because there's something in there that they need to learn, or they wouldn't be in that situation. You know what I mean? I would probably say,
yeah.
Yes,
And you know what?
Hopper, you shall learn.
Why don't we have our first oracle meeting tomorrow? Are you available?
I sure am.
So tomorrow at 3 p.m. GMT, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And I will put a Zoom on the community page, a Zoom link.
Okay.
And
we're going to do our first errant collective consciousness. Whoop, whoop.
Right. But you know what? I'm not going to put a link on YouTube, because one time Michael put a link for a Zoom on Facebook, and we had all these people come in and just do all these weird things. It was like ghosts, and just a whole bunch of different people came in and they just started saying all these weird things. It was so weird. We had to start a whole new meeting. So anyway, anyone who wants to,
we can send a link to,
well,
everybody can raise their hand. Go ahead.
Well, because they like just invaded our whole meeting. So what I'll do, anybody who wants to be in on an email, I'll put my email in the description, which it's always in the description anyway, and send me an email if you want to be in on this first one, and I'll send you the link that way, and that way I can start an email group too of all the people that want to do it.
Right,
so, yeah, right. I'll put a little note in the description with my email, so anybody who wants to be in the first wave of this oracle movement, that sounds so cool. And yeah, I'm super excited because, yeah, I'm excited. Like, I think we're witches, and that's one of the things with witches. I was always wondering, this is a whole different subject. Talk about a tangent.
Yeah.
Brooms and witches. You know how brooms and witches riding on brooms. And I was like, well, what probably happened is these witches got really good at levitating. And so they would levitate so much, and then they would have to steer, right? And eventually they just started flying. But the broom was just a maneuver to steer with, because it's hard to steer, just with your body. So that's my theory on brooms.
The thing about it is, they can't burn the witches at the stake anymore. So the thing about it is, we can do what we've always been talented to be able to do. And here's what I think about that whole thing is that as far as intuition and things like that, they call it, women's intuition. I think, women, I think, are tied deeper into the right hemisphere. And when you're intuitive, you're using all of your brain, and your brain just operates differently. It's able to tune in to things better, because think about it. They had the little bitty babies. So they had to be able to tune into their environment to keep those babies alive. They had to be able to use the third sense, their third eye, their other seeing apparatus to be able, to keep the children alive. I think that it was just something we developed as human beings, and I think that's why, it went into all the, we're going to burn all the witches and everything, because of what they could do. These oracles of Delphi started doing what they were doing. And so it made Greece very powerful. It made it a very wealthy country because they could see what was going on. If you're coming to raid them, well, they would know 2 weeks beforehand, and then they could send an army and invade you when you're not ready. So then it made the city very, very powerful. So when they came in, that was the first thing that they did, was got rid of all the oracles. They're like, okay, we ain't having no more of this going on here. Same thing with the monks in Tibet. They were doing the same thing. So what China do? Okay, y'all are messing with us. You're trying to give freedom to these people, and we're here to take their freedom away. So we're going to take your little monks out of here, and you better leave. It's the same thing. And I think it's the same thing with the Essenes and the Gnostics, how they were persecuted violently. They called them pagan religions. No, it's called paranormal religions. And they were using these natural talents that we have as consciousness, of using this inner sight. And if you have a group of people that wants power over people, well, they don't want you to have any tool like that. And so I think it's a wonderful renaissance right now that we can step back into our power, because there's nobody here, not anybody I can see at least, that can come and tell me to stop it.
Yeah. And remote viewing and all these things, all these different paranormal abilities are all valid. Tom Campbell just proved it over and over and over, just not with his own experiences, but he teaches others to have those experiences. And with Jason's recent video about that, he was kind of debunking them in a way, saying, well, they really didn't have so much power. They were just getting the data before the other people so they could tell them what was happening. But no, they had power. Don't even think that they didn't. And we all have that same power. And we just have to find the methodology and practice.
Wonder why Jason
the more you practice, because because Jason's not really into woo-woo stuff. Like, I remember people asked him about remote viewing, and he said that he didn't think it was possible because of time differences or something. I think he said that, from one time you can go into one other time with time travel. I don't know. But anyway, he's just not, he doesn't see a need for
paranormal.
Well, kind of, because informed fields, right? I mean,
right.
Your frequency and what you're resonating with, but like he talked about the tarot and just all these things, but he sees that it puts a template there, and that's probably the same thing with these abilities. Template's been there a long time. That's a very grooved in template. So once you tap into whatever the practice is, bam, you got it. It works like any other template. So in that sense, it's all the same.
Right. Well, and I was really, it was really interesting the other day when he was doing the video about the Ice Age. See, we all have these powers. We're all powerful, but we disempower ourselves by what we think about ourselves, right? So we have all these powers, and Jason was thinking about doing this Ice Age video, right? Well, the next day it got down to like 5 degrees here in Texas, which is it's an anomaly. It just doesn't get that cold here, but it was freezing. I mean, it was like, the informed field just turned it into an ice age, And so I totally believe that Jason has power. I believe that we have power. We all do. I know that we have power. I was at Tom Campbell's Immersives learning how to remote view, and I was able to do it on the first try. I've had people call me, asking me, looking for stuff for them, and I can do it. So I know that I have these powers because I've done it. I don't believe just anything I hear. Yeah, I have to have direct experience of it. So when I went to Tom Campbell's Immersives and I had all this psychic paranormal stuff going on, it was like there was no turning back for me. It's like, okay, this is happening. I experienced it. I can't deny it anymore. I know that it's real because I lived it. I know that it is happening and that we do have these abilities. But if we have too many fears and we have self-loathing and we don't like ourselves, that decreases our power
doubt
here.
too. You have doubt. You have doubt.
Yes.
You have confidence.
Yep. And when you have doubt, well, that goes along with the technology of belief. See, it's whatever you believe. If you believe you don't have it, you don't. If you believe you do, you do.
If you believe it, then it's true. And Jason is a wizard and doesn't even know it.
Well, he's going to be coming to the Texas Errant meetup, and I'm going to bring him.
They just talked about that again yesterday, so that's so cool. Cheryl Bailey here is the one that Archaics meetup and north of Fort Worth, I think they said, and that's so cool. Yeah, you get to be in the presence of the wizard.
Oh my gosh!
That used to be my hometown. I'm from Texas too, but Portugal's a little far. Plus plane rides.
Well, yeah, and it was supposed to just be a meetup, like 20, 25 people. Well, and then when I posted it, I got feedbacks like 50 people wanted to come. I'm like, okay, I can deal with that because I was going to get the venue and do all that. Then they put it on. Jason started talking about it, and then Jason was like, oh, well, I'm not going to go. And I was fine with that because that's not why I was doing it. It wasn't to obligate him to do anything. It was so us other powerful errands could meet up and start connecting, Well, then when he threw his hat in the rings, okay, me and Matt are coming. Oh my God, it's turned into a monstrosity and I don't know what's going to happen. So it's going to be in Fort Worth. I want to try to get it close to DFW Airport. So for people that are going to be flying in, then
you have to have that Billy Bob's as big as it is.
Well, I saw Billy Bob's and they have a big space there. And then I was thinking after, the meetup, then there's lots of restaurants and everything right there in Cowtown that they can go check it out,
And they have that crazy place called White Settlement. Is it still called that?
White Settlement.
It's right there around Billy Bob's. We're talking about Fort Worth, Texas now, and I'm sure a lot of people are totally lost. But yeah, that's really cool that y'all are gonna have that. I'm sure it'll end up being really amazing just being around all that energy. But yeah, so
I'm excited about it.
Yeah. So
we're going to show Jason how powerful he is.
Right. Well, I think he saw that, like you said, with the whole Ice Age presentation. And that is funny because, yeah, it is rare that it gets that cold there. And 5 degrees isn't 5 degrees Celsius. It's 5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is quite a bit below zero.
Oh, well, it was 5 degrees, which was not, it was still above zero.
Oh, okay.
But still here for Texas, that's just, I mean, we're used to 100-degree weather during the summer and we're acclimated to heat, not cold. And we have very mild winters here. So when it does that, we are like sea turtles at the coast in the freezing weather. We just don't know what to do. It's kind of like we get stunned by it. It's got like a cold stunning.
Yeah, but it's freezing, right? Because 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing, right? So you're still below freezing.
See, 5 degrees. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm getting old and tired. I don't know. You're
Yeah,
right.
like in Celsius, it would be negative something. I don't even know about that. That's a tricky conversion, but yeah, I thought I had it right with my left brain here was kicking in for a minute.
And my
Yeah.
left brain that doesn't live in there wasn't kicking in.
Well, I think it's more beneficial in today's world to be more right brain, but I guess to find that balance is really the ultimate. And Tom Campbell again is a good example of that. But yeah, we covered a lot of ground here, so man, break free. This is how to do it. You don't have to die trying. You don't even have to get close to that. You just do a few little things and have some self-awareness and some honesty about what's going on. And you don't even, there's no reason to beat yourself up over anything. You just make the corrections now and go forward and create a life that you want and get in our Oracle group, and who knows what we'll create. I'm excited. I can't even, yeah, it's beyond my imagination at this point. I haven't even really thought much, but when Cheryl sent me an email about it yesterday, and sometimes we'll send emails to each other at the exact same time and often about the exact same topic. So we're definitely already connected psychically. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we
when we
are.
connect with the intentions to really get things moving and shaking. Look out, world, look out, that we're only here to do good. We're only here to do good and improve things and lower the entropy and this entropy reduction trainer that we're in, and try to get more and more people just to be able to go back to be in love and get ourselves there too. And yeah, it's just such a cool thing. And you get so much more contentment out of life when you get to that place where giving is just the best thing you can do. There's nothing better than being able to give, and when you're living in all that fear with all those judgments of lack and being unworthy and all that, all you want to do is get, take, and it never fulfills you. Nothing ever fills you, not food, not clothes, not cars, not jewelry, nothing, vacations, none of it does. And you
Nope.
get to the point where every day's a vacation, every moment is a vacation, and like where I'm living now, I'm basically 15 minutes south to the beach, 15 minutes north to the mountain, and really awesome weather. So where would I need a vacation to? And I was just I was I just put up a canvas tent. Thank you so much to my subscriber Parrick. It's one of those Irish names, Paraic, I think how you spell it. He made a nice donation, so I bought this canvas bell tent. I was moving my art supplies out there, and sometimes I write my new moon intentions down. I haven't done it in a while because, well, anyway. So I looked and I had written some down on this notepad in there from May of this year, and it was said, and what I'd written was um, bringing in, bring like-minded, like-hearted, and I wrote some other nice attributes about people for my community here to this property. And now I have like 2 people here. We have a family coming on the way from south of France right now, and then we have a couple of more people coming next week. So this little community is already just starting to grow. And I just wrote that intention down, and I was like, no, I want, I think the top thing I wrote was like, my tribe will come to me here, or something like that. And here they are. They're coming, so it's just really amazing. You don't even have to leave your house to manifest these days.
No, because we are powerful beings here. And we can manifest the life we want, just like you said, and as we move this stuff out of our consciousness, it changes what we're going to reflect back to ourselves. So we just got to keep pushing forward and, make that, what is that? New Year's resolution. Make that resolution to get to where the problem is. Let's get rid of fear for this year. Ooh, that even rhymed. Let's get rid of fear for this year and we'll be done with it. And, it does take a little bit of time to clear these things out, and it does get easier as you go. The first few ones are, not as simple, but once you get that first template and you get that first fear out of there, you can start shaking them off like fleas. It's just one after another. And then, you set your intent to get rid of your fears. Well, the system is going to show you where your fears are. It's not that you're getting worse. It's trying to help you see them so you can get in there and drag and slay them and drag them out by their tail and knock them in the head, and compassionately, get rid of those so that you can help yourself see that you are worthy. You're worthy of love. You're worthy of everything here because you're consciousness and we're all connected together. We are very powerful beings. And that's why, because of the power that we have, if we get to beating ourselves up on the inside, wow, you're really, it's a lot of power coming right at you in a negative way. So, and once we come into our own and come into our power and you realize that, then it helps you to know that, you are worthy and you can get rid of those fears and you can move on to a better state of being, and that you have assistance here. You're not alone. We have all kinds of assistance here all the time. And if you're really working on your fear, the system will click into that and will help provide the assistance that you need. I had all kinds of assistants come in and help me, but when I was going through the hardest part of it, they were everywhere. It was almost like, like I was in a hospital room being, resuscitated, like my consciousness was being resuscitated. And there was all these people who were ahead of me in the process, and they're going, come on, Cheryl, and they were, pulling me forward. You can do it. You can do it. And as I start standing on my wobbly legs, they're like a little baby. Come on, you can stand up on your own. You can do it. And I want to give that to everybody else that I see doing this work. You can do it. And I'm really proud of all of us for coming together and doing this work and staying focused on it and not letting go of the prize in the sky, because we can see it now because we've got enough eyeballs looking at it. And so hope we can get our errant collective consciousness rolling, and that's going to start doing some other things. And I'm really, really looking forward to seeing, what unfolds in the future for all of us.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and we'll keep everybody updated on all our manifestations. But it really is like that, and just if you just look around in nature, you'll see how abundant this place is. There is no shortage of anything. It's all systems go. Anything you really want. Of course, Tom's always saying, if you have good intentions behind your intentions, that they're more likely to manifest, and people can manifest without having the good intentions. So we do have that ability too, but when you got the good intentions behind it too, I just think that's a better resonance that works with the system better, because if the intentions are kind of sinister, or somewhere behind them they got some kind of sinisterness to them or whatever, it's just not as responsive to it.
No. So you don't have to be worried about that. Oh, I'm going to think bad about somebody and they're going to disintegrate. No, the system is not sensitive to that. It will not do that for you. If anything, it will take away some of your power if you are thinking like that. It will not, allow you to proceed, because we are not allowed to hurt consciousness here. This simulation, it is only concerned with the consciousness here. It doesn't care about avatars. It doesn't care about the physical realityness of it all. It cares about the consciousness here. So if you go out of your way trying to hurt another consciousness, it will hurt you. It'll do a big loop and come right back to you, because it's not allowed. Now it does happen, but if that is your intention, to hurt others, then a lot of times you will find people that have these kind of intentions. They end up in prisons and things like that. So it does have a confinement field for people who have too many dark uglies.
So yeah, there you go, everyone. Anything else, Cheryl?
I think we've covered it all, Julia.
Yeah, this is just like this is so big, like this needs to be heard by millions of people. Seriously, this is huge, huge information, and we'll see how things go with the Errant Collective Consciousness group. And again, if you want to be in on that, just send me an email and just put ECC in the subject, and I will send you the Zoom link for tomorrow at 3 p.m. GMT, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we'll just take it from there like we always do. Cheryl and me, whoever I work with, I just wing it usually. More fun that way. And appreciate everyone being here. And we're almost through this year. It's hard to believe, but what a ride this year has been, because I started this channel on January 3rd of this year. And man, there's so much has happened just since I started talking about this kind of thing to my new friends here on YouTube. Because, that was another one of the things I was like, I wish I would just had someone to talk to who would appreciate what I had to say, what I've learned in life, and I could learn from them too. And now, man, I have hundreds of people like that in my life. So just amazing, just in awe and wonder and gratitude all the time on what's going on, and just can't, just anticipating, and just it's just so fun and exciting. There aren't even any words.
There's not any words. It's very exciting. It's almost like as I was, in deep and doing the fear work and the things I needed to do internally, you end up kind of almost in a sort of an isolation buffer, and as I've, worked my way out of it, it's just more and more, connections are showing up. And now I have other people to talk to about what I'm experiencing. And, it has changed everything in my life, because I was so negative, nobody wanted to be around me. It's just the truth, and it's okay. We all got to come from somewhere. And the beautiful thing is that we don't have to stay there, and I didn't. And now that I'm out of it, it's fun to be around people, and I love being around people, and I've really loved the work I've done with you, Julia. We're on some kind of special wavelength here. I don't know if you said anything, but Julia sent me an email for a link to a video that she thought was interesting. And I opened this email and looked at it, and I looked at the link and the title and the name of it, and I was watching that video at the same time. I was already watching it.
And she had thought about sending it to me as well.
Yeah.
And then I went and watched my friend Lana's video, who I hope joins in with us tomorrow. I'll definitely get in touch. And she was mentioning the same person in the video, or probably the same video. So yeah, where everybody's just syncing up right now, and it's work to be done. And we're not only on the same wavelength, we're on this wave that's just, rushing over to, the love wave just coming through. So everybody has the chance to jump on and get rid of their dark uglies and do that little bit of healing work. And it's really not much in the big scheme of things. It's such a little amount of effort that you put in for the results you get back. Man, it's like cold fusion, you get a lot more out than you put in.
Well, come on, jump on the love waves here. Just jump right in there, and we're going to ride this wave all the way to the shore until we get all of us in here where we need to be, riding the love wave. And we're all going to make it out alive. We will do it. And we're all going to help each other get to the other side of it. And I hope everybody here has a wonderful day, and you too, Julia. And maybe we'll get to do something.
Well, we're going to do our thing tomorrow. You send me an email, Cheryl, with the details that I need to tell everyone that gets in touch with me about what they're supposed to come up with before the meeting. So,
okay.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And remember to stay focused on what you want, help others if you can. And we will talk to you next time. Ciao, ciao.